We're hitting the tables in Macau on this consumer goods edition of Industry Focus. Greetings, fools. Sean O'Reilly here at Fool Headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia. It is Tuesday, April 12th, 2016, and joining me in studio is Vince. I'm at the tail end of a cold Shen. How's it going, man? Feeling any better? Drinking lots of clear liquids?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little better. Thanks for asking.
You sound good. Yeah.
Sound okay. Hopefully I don't get into a coughing fit in the middle of the show.
Of course not. Well, you've got your water next to you if you do. So anyway. So we're talking, it's been a while. When did we do that Sin Stocks week? We were just talking to founder of the Fool, David Gardner, about it. I was trying to remember when, was that like our first series a year ago? Or
I will say that I do recall that probably being the first, series of shows that we did, where it wasn't like a week-to-week news kind of topic. And
maybe it was last summer. Anyway.
Earlier than that. I think it's about a year ago at this point.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't that long after I just started joining you on the IF.
Wow. Happy anniversary, Vince.
There you go.
So we're not talking specifically broadly gaming or anything. We're actually just talking about Macau.
Yes.
Now, that being said, you're talking about largest gambling mecca on planet Earth. I mean, it's, what were you saying, even after the drop that they've experienced in the last 2 years?
Even now, it's multiples the size of Las Vegas, the Strip.
Right.
And, as much as within the U.S., I think a lot of people, when you think of, excuse me,
it's very easy to go to Vegas and get just a sensory overload and multiply that by 5, and that's Macau.
Or 7, exactly. So definitely a gambling paradise. Very, very, it's definitely a place where people generally beforehand, especially now, they've begun this shift, right? Where the Chinese government has basically said, you need to diversify your economy a little bit and bring in more family entertainment, things along those lines. Previously it was very much so a gambling focused economy and market.
So how much money trades hands in Macau? Did you come across that at all?
Sure. So just to give listeners a little bit of context, we know that since about June 2014, Macau has struggled, and that was after 10 plus years of incredible growth. I think it's Macau surpassed Vegas as the largest gambling, call it enclave
market or whatever,
in about 2007, and then the growth just kept ramping up until 2014, and then there was the government kind of crackdown on corruption and luxury spending, which have sent the market, I think it's 22 straight months now, there have been year-over-year declines in gaming revenue in Macau.
Wow. So
to give you an idea, 2010, the overall total gaming revenue was about 188.3 billion Macanese patakas. Exchange rate's about 8 patakas to $1. So that's about $23.5 billion. 2013 it peaked at about $45 billion. And in 2015, it's fallen back down to about $29 billion. So you can see how significant the amount that they've lost in terms of gaming revenue in the past 2 years is far more than the Vegas season entire year, just how much they've lost.
Right. So you've never been, have you? I went to Hong Kong when I was in China in 2009. You've never been to Macau.
You're not too far across the water, but no, I was in Singapore where I was able to see the Marina Bay Sands and what Las Vegas Sands has there. But unfortunately, I did not make it to Macau because that would have been an incredible experience. Even now, especially because, and this is another reason why I wanted to talk about Macau today, was there are some huge new luxury resorts coming up from several of the major players there, including MGM, Las Vegas Sands, who we will be talking about, Wynn Resorts, and others.
Yeah, no, and it was, before we move on, I just wanted to, it was always interesting to me how, Las Vegas was just this, like, desert stopover thing that just popped up after World War II, and of course the mafia got involved and all that good stuff, but Macau, I mean, it was designed by the People's Republic of China to be a gaming mecca, and it's just this island just south of the island of Hong Kong. It was actually trickier to get to because I had flirted with the idea of getting over there, but I think I would have had to show my passport again on the ferry and all this stuff. But in any case, it was always interesting to me how planned and clearly the purpose was to be this enormous mecca.
Well, yeah, the moment they lifted that monopoly on who could operate the casinos, the amount of foreign investment that went into the area, and
it was nuts.
just like that, you have now what is still a massive market.
Did you come across? I wish I knew this off the top of my head. What are the biggest games there?
Well, of course, I actually have a little bit of breakdown I can share with you. As I gave you the total gaming numbers, but just to give you an idea, VIP Baccarat. So that we're talking about, the VIP clientele, so high net worth individuals, is still by far the biggest game, even though it's lost its share. So in 2010, it made up VIP Baccarat made up about 72% of total gaming revenue, but that share has fallen down to like 55% as of 2015. And again, that is going to have to do obviously with a bit of the crackdown that I mentioned earlier. But if you go down market slightly to normal, more mass market or premium mass market Baccarat, that was at about 18.5% in 2010, and its share has grown to about a third in 2015. So the game is still by far the most popular.
For sure, yeah.
Number 3 is actually slots, and it only has, as of 2015, about a 5% share of gaming revenue there. So those two table games are by far the most popular.
The penny slots are just not doing it. No. Okay. Well, before we move on, I wanted to point to our listeners the newly redesigned focus.fool.com. As I've mentioned in the past, all Loyal IF listeners have access to a special discount on the Motley Fool's Stock Advisor newsletter that works out to $129 for a full 2-year subscription. Just go to focus.fool.com to take advantage of this offer. Once again, that is focus.fool.com. So, Vince, the coup de grace, the new casinos that are opening up in this area.
Yes.
This has actually been a long time coming, and is anybody nervous? Because from what I could tell, they're all gung-ho, they're opening these casinos, all this stuff. Does anybody think that the timing is a little bad?
Well, yeah, a lot of these the timing when a lot of these projects broke ground.
It was the heyday.
Exactly.
It was awesome.
So, are a lot of these developers and these operators facing a ton of uncertainty right now in terms of the fact that they have a lot of new supply coming in, not only in table games, but slots and also hotel rooms. And so absolutely, lots of uncertainty. But a lot of people right now who are more bullish in terms of the near-term prospects. They think, for example, February, I was talking about the 22 months of declines. A lot of the, most of them have been double-digit for the past year and a half. But February was a bright spot. It was a year-over-year decline was only about 10 basis points.
Oh, so that's like a fraction of, yeah.
And they happen to get a lot more traffic because of the Chinese New Year. And so people saw that as a really positive sign. A lot of the stocks have done well since the beginning of February as a result because, these gaming companies had seen their shares trade down 75%.
Yeah, whenever you mention basically gaming in Southeast Asia, you pretty much always come across that Melco Crown Resorts. And they're in, correct me if I'm wrong, they're in Singapore too, right?
No, they are in Macau and in Philippines.
Oh, in the Philippines, I'm sorry. That's actually what I was thinking. Anyway. But they own 60% of that new one that's opening up in Macau, the Studio City place. So
Studio City opened its doors in last October.
Okay.
Huge event. They even spent, I think it was like $70 million on a short film with Scorsese, De Niro, DiCaprio, and Brad Pitt. It was like a 17-minute.
Was it an Ocean's 11 ripoff or something?
It was just a marketing film about the opening of the resort, and so
I kind of need to see this.
The resort looks incredible. It was a $3.2 billion project from the company, and keep in mind that Melco Crown, their stock's down about 56% since that downturn began in June 2014. So Studio City has 1,600 guest rooms between its two separate towers, and here is where we're kind of seeing how the strategic focus of these companies is shifting to accommodate the fact that a lot of their VIP customers are no longer making it. They're no longer dropping as much cash on the tables. So, for example, you have one tower of the hotel is Celebrity Tower, meets more so like a broad swath of customers, and then they have the Star Tower, which is these bigger suites, much more so for the luxury clientele. Again, so they're kind of splitting that in order to accommodate both ends of the market, so to speak. And then another fact is, right now they only have 250 gaming tables and about 1,200 slot machines, which is, not that much compared to their other properties.
So this is kind of where China seems to want Macau to go, and that's definitely where it's going, which is having more entertainment, more family-friendly stuff, all that.
Absolutely. So, Beijing has basically signaled to Macau and said that we want you to diversify your economy, and we want you to change, however you market yourself, but we want more family-friendly entertainment. And I think Studio City is a really, being the newest opening, I'm pretty sure, in the area, is a really good example of that, because you have, for example, their Golden Reel, figure 8 Ferris wheel, highest in the world at 130 meters.
What's a figure 8 Ferris? Anyway,
you gotta look at the pictures and you'll see it. It's incredible.
I'm gonna Google.
And also, there's they have the House of Magic. It's 3 separate theaters with magic shows running 7 days a week. They have a Batman Dark Flight ride, which you would absolutely love.
I would totally love to do that. That's awesome.
It's like it's like an interactive amusement ride. Essentially, they have their Pasha Macau nightclub. They have a huge event center with 5,000 seat capacity for concerts, theaters, sports, award ceremonies. They have a 40,000 square foot arcade and playground for kids, which I'm probably sure I would love to.
Oh, it's like part of the center of the building. I'm looking at the
exactly
Ferris wheel. Yeah,
and a big thing is they're going to have this thing called the Boulevard. It's supposed to kind of recreate New York street shopping, but in an indoor setting. 377,000 square feet when it's finished. Right now, they're kind of still building that out as retailers move into the space.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, only 250 gaming tables, 1,200 slot machines. Not that much compared to some of the other properties in Macau. And so, all those other things that I mentioned is this shift in terms of where hopefully their revenue is going to be coming from the resort. But when I say that, I don't want listeners to believe that it's like an even split. Still, the bulk of every one of these businesses, their revenue is coming from the casino.
Got it. Okay.
So
now this is the one I'm interested to get your thoughts, because I knew the most about the City of Dreams, which opened in 2009.
Yes.
That's not terribly big, but it was just that was started right before the stuff happened, so they've been doing well. But did you get a read on how they're performing lately?
Yeah, sure. So, they announced their fourth quarter results, and at least for net revenue was about $669 million. Unsurprisingly, it's down year over year, about 25%. So non-gaming revenue made up about 10% of that number. So you can see how much it's still focused on the casino. But that's up from 8% in the year ago quarter. And the thing is, Studio City, though, is a very different picture, where non-gaming revenue was about $37.8 million of total 123.2. So it's about 30% is non-gaming.
Whereas City of Dreams was built for the rich millionaire that comes in there to...
Yeah, not only was it built more so focused on the gaming side, but on the VIP clientele as well. Yeah. So Studio City, that 30% split coming from non-gaming gives you an inclination of...
It's a big divergence for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And, though the Studio City was only open for about 2 full months in that quarter, the resort generated about $123 million, adjusted EBITDA of $12.6 million. And those numbers will certainly go up as the resort ramps up its operations.
Right.
And, moving on, so the next resort that is coming.
So this is the drum roll. This
one, I will say, is a lot of people will associate the name who we're talking about now is Wynn Resorts. Steve Wynn.
Well, yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. It's your friend of mine, Steve Wynn, but he's famous, and he recently made comments on his conference call how he considers Wynn to be a high-end premium brand that markets to the millionaire that comes in there to play baccarat or whatever. So is he towing the line and doing what China wants him to do with this thing, or he is?
I think there's a balance, but you're absolutely right. Brand name, in terms of the brand name, and in terms of the way they're building out the resort, it's still going to be very much a luxury resort and catering to that kind of clientele. So Wynn Palace is what is currently under development. It's a $4.1 billion project. Wynn Resorts, their stock, it's just to kind of paint the trend for you, is down 55% since the downturn began.
Same as...
very similar.
Yeah.
But they are actually up 40% year to date. And
so they were down even more, is what you're telling me.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's after a 40% run so far in 2016. So the Wynn Palace is projected to open in, I believe, this summer. There's been several construction delays. So I think it was June. It actually got pushed out again to August. And so 1,700 guest rooms projected. There's going to be this performance lake, 8 acres. As an attraction. And again, if you look at a lot of the marketing behind it, they are very focused on dining, retail, meeting spaces. And in a recent investor presentation, the company's projecting, depending on the market share that they can claim on the strip, about $630 million to $850 million in adjusted EBITDA at this property, which essentially doubles their base in Macau. Because they only have one other resort, which is the Wynn Encore. That opened in 2006. There was an expansion in 2010. Just to give you an idea. So, Macau recently has placed a cap on these new resorts and how many table games they can install. Mm-hmm. But whereas at Wynn Encore Macau, it's about 458 gaming tables, 708 slot machines. These new resorts are probably going to get about 250 gaming table games per.
And that's one of the ways that China is kind of like, okay, stop it with the gaming.
I think they're just trying to regulatory body in Macau is just trying to keep things balanced. And the thing is, these companies can reshift their tables from one property to another. So it's not like it's static. Okay. But it just gives you an idea that it is a smaller base. That's why Studio City, even though it's the newest resort, doesn't have as many table games as City of Dreams. So the Wynn Encore, which is currently open, it's smaller in terms of its guest rooms, about 1,000, and has about 57,000 square feet of retail space. And adjusted EBITDA in 2015 was $708.6 million, which represents about 60% of the total company EBITDA. And so based on those projections I mentioned for Wynn Palace, again, it's about doubling the base for the region. And it's just something to keep in mind, too. In 2015, non-casino revenue made up about 20% of the top line at Wynn. So it's up from 21% the previous year and 20% in 2013. So again, the company's kind of grappling with the changing dynamics and the fact that, the casinos are not going to be this incredible source of growth, bread and butter that they were previously.
So you had Studio City Macau. It opened up last October. You've got Wynn Palace. It's about to open up this June, supposedly, although there have been delays. Sure. Yeah. Got another one coming up though, and
there's several more, but just for the sake of time, I'm focusing on the ones for 2016. So then the one that's coming later this year is really incredible. I've seen a lot of the pictures following the development. One of our writers, Bradley Seth, had some.
He's probably been there.
When he was based in Macau, he had some really cool pictures. But it's the Parisian from Las Vegas Sands.
So the Parisian Macau. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the Las Vegas Sands, this is their $2.7 billion project, and Las Vegas Sands, their operating base is spread out through more regions. So they have Macau, they have Singapore, they have Las Vegas and other regions. So their stock is down about 35% since the downturn. I think they're just a little bit more diversified. And
they do a very brisk business in Las Vegas on conventions. Yes. They have like 3 million square feet of convention space at the Venetian and stuff. It is massive amount of just convention space for meetings. But anyway,
and I actually stayed with them when I was in Vegas a few years ago at the Palazzo. So there, Las Vegas Sands owns a 70.1% stake in Sands China, which operates all these Macau properties.
Does the government get the other cut, or is it just locals? Yeah, you're giving me this look like.
Yeah, so this all part of the deal. I don't know all the details in terms of the way the Macau had auctioned off these rights when the monopoly ended. But it all has to do with whose
beak are you going to wet there? Yeah.
So the Parisian's projected to open its doors in the second half of 2016. Again, there's been some construction delays. So this one is really big in terms of the guest rooms. So 2,900 guest rooms expected.
Which is double the Studio City, because that was 1,600. They're talking about 1,700 over at Wynn Palace. So the Parisian's a 800-pound gorilla in the room. I mean, that's a lot of rooms.
And touching on those guest room numbers, I'll get to that towards the end as we sum things up, why that's kind of important. So they're expecting like 150 different retail boutiques and shops. Again, 250 gaming tables, like I said, because of the cap that Macau's instituted. And I think the coolest thing here, they're going to have a 1/2 scale replica of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, wow.
There.
So it's not going to be small like the one in Vegas.
So they just put up, I think they just put up like the final piece of that, the spire at the top. There's like a big ceremony for that. But Macau properties contributed about 53% of adjusted EBITDA in 2015. So it's down from 60% in 2014 just because of the fact that the region's struggling. And casinos made up about 82%, of net revenue in 2014. That fell to 78% in 2015. The casinos overall saw revenue fall 24% for the year. And some smaller losses in the casino revenue in Singapore at Las Vegas kind of were able to offset the larger declines in Macau. So the Venetian and Sands Cotai, which is Las Vegas Sands' two other big properties in the region, they fell 29% and 33% respectively. So they're feeling the pain, absolutely. Yeah. They're definitely not feeling experiencing the same downtrend as everybody else has. But the thing is, they're able to offset that a little bit more also in terms of Las Vegas coming in is with occupancy rates and average daily room rates were up in Vegas, kind of boosted their results that they reported recently, and also in mall revenue. So shops at Venetian and shops at Cotai Central, huge retail spaces, and they posted high single-digit gains in 2015. It was a slowdown from the previous year, but again, a bright spot when you're looking at all this red in terms of the casino revenue. So, kind of putting everything together here, the government of Macau has forecasted another decline for 2016. It was, if 2015, it was 230 billion batakas. They're expecting for 2016 is about 200. And then a lot of people are saying right now, are things or asking this question at least, are things bottoming out? We've seen some of these companies, their stocks have recovered year to date. I think people, because investors are getting bullish that, hey, especially with the more positive result in the beat in February, maybe this is the sign that things are going to be on an upswing. But that's really hard to say. There's a lot going on, and the thing, with each new resort, you're adding a ton of supply. So room revenue is often the second largest source of income after gaming.
Therein lies the rub.
And, it's often the second largest source of revenue for these businesses. But the thing is, tons of new supply coming up soon as each property is completed. And a trend that we've also seen is falling occupancy rates and falling average daily room rates. So that hurts them. So, some people see it as a positive, but at the same time, Studio City has the buzz right now because it's the newest. Then Wynn Palace has the buzz because it'll be the newest, and that will absolutely
and then in 5 years
an
it'll
incredible opening. And then after that, you'll have the Parisian, and after that, you have MGM Cotai, and then there's several new resorts coming in 2017 as well that we can cover in another episode. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So
it seems to lend itself to the idea that maybe as a whole, the bottom's occurring or whatever, but per casino, more pain may be coming.
So the thing is, are we going to reach those peaks that we saw in 2014? Probably not. Not for many, many years. So even if you say, okay, I agree with the idea that the market is stabilizing and these losses are kind of stemming off, the market now is going to be spread again among more and more tables, more and more slots, more and more rooms, and it really makes you have to consider how these companies are positioned, and you have to look at each company now and really think like, are they, marketing themselves, and they're going to hit the segments that are going to be the biggest money drivers for each business. Yeah, and I think that also has a lot to do with why Macau is capping the number of table games, for example, at each new resort, because otherwise it's just a larger and larger pie, or it's being split,
Right.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. So bottom line, the bottom may be in as for market as a whole, but for shareholders of all these companies, tread carefully.
And also, for me personally, I think Macau is probably my top 3 places that I really would like to visit because it's just the development there is incredible, and I've heard so much about it from people who've been there who say it's worth the visit, even if you're not a gambler, because, like I said, the entertainment options, the shopping, it's definitely a sight to be seen.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for your thoughts, Vince.
Thanks, John.
Have a good one. If you're a loyal listener and have questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Just email us at industryfocus@fool.com. Again, that's industryfocus@fool.com. As always, people in this program may have interest in the stocks they talk about, and the Motley Fool may have formal recommendations for or against those stocks, so don't buy or sell anything based solely on what you hear in this program. For Vincent Shen, I am Sean O'Reilly. Thanks for listening, and Fool on.